expectation and blame throwing. So I have to go, what in me created something to want to do this regardless? Because if we're supposed to be Christians, Christians means little Christ-like one. My reaction should be Christ-like all the time. Now, is that always the truth? Probably not, but my goal should be, am I working to be Christ-like in all of my actions and all my decisions on a day-by-day basis?
Amen. And I like, here it says, however, we usually have a part to play in any situation. I would say that 99% of the time, we have a part to play in any situation. It's not just usually, it's most of the time. Even if it's, and a good example is just what you guys were talking about, expectation. Anytime we have a resentment, we can always trace that back to an expectation. There's that saying that I'm sure most of you have heard, expectations are premeditated resentments. That's what they are. So if we have any kind of a resentment, we can take that back to an expectation. If I have a resentment against my wife, it's probably because, or more than likely, it's because I expected her to do something or act a certain way or say something or whatever it is. There was some expectation on my part that I should not have placed on her. So that may be the only part I played, but that's still a part that I played. And this part where it says becoming ninjetic, with ninja-like skill, ninjas don't just happen overnight. So give it time, but practice it. That's what it takes. Practice 24/7, 365. We have to practice these principles. We have to step back. I mean, it's taken me a while, and it still takes me longer than it takes my wife. But I catch my part faster today than I did. Before it was maybe 3 days before. Now it's usually within a day. I can figure out my part. And so it takes time, and it takes practicing those principles and looking for it. It doesn't just happen overnight.
And we need to make sure we're giving ourselves grace in these situations. We're not always going to be perfect at it. So as long as we're trying and we recognize, oh, I did not do that so well this time, I need to do better, or even figuring out how I can do better, because I know there's been a situation recently that I've tried to walk this out, and I have not done a fantastic job at it. And it took me a little bit after being mad to realize, oh, that was kind of on me. So we just need to give ourselves grace, because if not, then you're just going to sit mad that you didn't do it perfectly, and that's not helpful either. So,
amen. And so John writes, Jesus was full of grace and truth. So there's this balance where I don't just go, well, I messed up again. I'm just never going to get it right. I just can't be perfect till I get to heaven, right? That's one way we'll go with it. Or the other way is, oh, gosh darn it, I'm just a failure. I'm never going to figure this out. Right? Because we can either say the same thing and justify staying the same, or we can say the same thing and justify not changing, which it sounds like the same thing, but it's not. So I have to identify, where do I need to show myself grace? I love that you said that, because there's so many things where if I don't see it like God sees it, I'm not going to be able to start to work on it in my life. So, good example. I struggle with selfishness. If I go, God's mad at me for being selfish 2 years ago, am I going to be able to work on selfishness? No, because if I don't believe the gospel that God cast my sins as far as the east is from the west, I can't start to work on it because I think God's mad at me and I'm trying to earn love instead of being loved and then working on it from that place. I hope that makes sense. That is that place where you can actually change, because then you go, God's not mad at me, but he's asking me to step forward and trust him and work on this with him and grow into it with him. And that's this process. So this is practically identifying. I love this. This is on your second page. So who or what wronged you? And I draw a little arrow, if you can, to the right and put perception. Who or what wronged you? Because this is your perception. This is where you need to get those feelings and those thoughts out. This is where it's really good to have a Jill or a Robin or a Steve or a Haley or a me or a Calvin or a Phyllis. I would love to call you Phyllis and talk to you about stuff. It is really great to have somebody in your life where you can go and just kind of word vomit. That doesn't excuse it. It doesn't mean I come up here on Saturday, get ready to preach and go, I'm just going to word vomit everything that I'm thinking out to you guys because you need to hear it. Probably not. But there needs to be somebody in my life that I can go to and say, here's what I'm thinking. Help me process through this. Does that make sense? So have that. And that's your perception. So there is no, hey, you're wrong. Don't say that. You need a person that's going to listen. And then after they listen, then they say, okay, how would Jesus do this? What are we going to do about it? See that? We can't just sit in it, and we also can't just skip over it. We have to move through it with somebody.
No, that's good. And I like how you said perception too, because a lot of times we perceive somebody wronged us and they never intended harm. They never meant to wrong us. So it's a lot of times it is our perception, and that creates feelings inside of us. And we know that thoughts, feelings then lead to actions. So if we can change that perception, like you said, process it with somebody else, find somebody who's going to help you change the focus from, I like what Robin and Jill do all the time. When somebody calls them up to complain about somebody else, they're like, okay, you've got 1 minute to complain about that person, and now we're going to talk about you. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of person you need in your life.
Amen. So I'm going to make up a situation so you can see this practically. So let's say after church this week or last weekend, Steve didn't go out to dinner with me, and I was really offended about it. I wasn't here last weekend, so this didn't happen. But who or what wronged me? So my perception is Steve doesn't like me. Steve must have something against me. Steve must hate me and doesn't want to hang out with me. I don't know why, but he just didn't go to dinner with me. Do you see how that's perception? Here's the difference in this next step. So what happened or what was done? Draw an arrow next to this and put truth. Truth. So this is where, are you probably going to get the full truth out there? No, but can I get as close to what actually happened out? So can I go, Steve just didn't go to dinner with me, without saying any of the other stuff where I go, Steve doesn't like me, Steve did this, Steve must be mad about this thing that he did 2 weeks ago and I did to him. Do you see that? There's a difference between me trying to take a step back and going, what actually happened? Steve just didn't want to go to dinner with me. So then what do I do with that? The next one, what effect did this have in me? Underline in me, and then put an arrow to the right that says reaction. So what was my reaction? My reaction was hurt and anger in that situation. So what in me, if I'm sitting, this is how I would do this if this happened. What in me felt like I got hurt or made me angry? Oh, to me it would be, I've been abandoned by a lot of people in my life. I've had people come in and come out and not say anything or just act like everything was fine, and then all of a sudden they stop talking to me. So I have this fear of abandonment. So I can identify that and go, oh, Steve not wanting to go to dinner with me made me feel abandoned. So it wasn't something Steve said, it was my perception of what happened. Are you seeing how this works? Okay. And then what internal lie did I choose to believe that made me act in selfishness, dishonesty, or fear? Write an arrow to the right of this and put self-reflection. So if it's fear of abandonment, what is that? If I had to take that to its core. Yeah? Fear, selfishness, security. Those are all some words that I could work on with God then and go, okay, so I need to find security in God, not in whether or not Steve likes me. I need to find security in, I still have a lot of other people in my life that I love and care about. Even if Steve's not in my life, I'll be okay because I have God and I have them. So you have to defeat the lie with some truth in this process and work through it. Does that make sense?
No, you did good. That was
I
good.
will just say this is a good way. I don't know if anyone else has that mean little internal voice or if it's just me. And if it's just me, I'm going to talk to myself. But this is a good process to get that voice to be quiet. So if you just hang out in the what wronged you in your perception, then for me, it's that they wronged me, they did this exactly what Jacob said, and it's just going to sit there and repeat and repeat and repeat until I'm crazy. So if you start to go through these processes, it's going to get quieter and quieter, and then you can replace it with the truth,
And just, if this process, if something happened, whatever it was, and it did create turmoil, it did create conflict, then going through this, that reaction and that self-reflection, that is your part right there. That self-reflection is the nature of your wrong, of why you had this reaction. And that's what we're preparing, because we're not quite there yet, but we're preparing to make amends for, is that nature of a wrong, what we believe, the lie we believed, and then that caused us to do this. And that's how you make those amends.
And if you're not doing this with God, it won't work, I promise. So if it's not who or what wronged you, okay, God, I'm feeling mad, I'm angry, I don't know what to do next. God, just grant me the serenity, right? If I'm not praying that and getting that out there and talking to God and walking with it through Him, it's really not going to stick, because I'm back and operating in feelings and self-will, and it never works, I promise. So another great prayer, God, show me where I'm deceived. Write that one down. God, show me where I'm deceived, because what's the definition of deception? You don't know where you're wrong. So you could think, oh man, I'm 100% right today. Like I'm rocking and rolling with God. Everything's great. I got this. Nothing's going to hurt me. I'm good. I probably have some area in my life where I'm deceived. And if I'm not praying and asking God to reveal that, then that's going to be a shortcoming, a pothole that I end up falling into because I'm not prepared for it. Doesn't mean we always just doubt ourselves and go, oh, I don't know if I'm right. I'm not sure if I'm going to do this right. I'm just not sure. It means we have a confidence in our lack of knowing everything. We have to have a confidence in God and a fear of God. A fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge and wisdom and understanding. So when I have that fear, that healthy level of God knows I don't know everything, then I can do it with him and be connected to the source of everything. And I'm going to work through all circumstances with Christ who gives me strength. Amen? John 17:15-16. My prayer is not that you take them out of the world, but that you protect them from the evil one. They are not of the world, even as I am not of it. This is, I don't want to pick on anybody, so I won't say that. This is where we get this idea sometime in Christianity where it's like, I'm just going to live in this perfect community. I'm just going to live in this amazing world where there's nothing harmful out there. Because if all of us would just get on the same page and we like go build a compound somewhere, we'd have a really easy life, wouldn't we? Right? We kind of think that sometimes because we have this escapism theology. You see it in congregations where they preach every week, Jesus is coming back to hell with the world, but to heaven with me. It's where I get this idea of Jesus is going to come back, the world's going to end. We're just going to focus on that, and when that happens, it'll be great because we're out of here, right? I don't necessarily think that's Christ-like because we're supposed to be loving the world into knowing Jesus, not focused on we're going to get out of this, and when we get out of it, it's going to be great. We're supposed to be able to still be in the world but not be of it. That's where that comes from, this verse. So can I know I'm not of this world, I'm a citizen of heaven. I'm doing life with Jesus. It doesn't mean I get out of doing life. I still have a job, I still have a family, I'm still a citizen of the United States, but I'm a citizen of heaven first and foremost, and I'm just living through that as a representative of Jesus. I hope that makes sense. Amen. Y'all ready to split up? You got anything? Y'all ready for this? Women upstairs, guys scoot on up front. Let's do this.